Good day, welcome back to tuition2u.com. You are now with V. Sundram, and currently we are in SPM Biology syllabus, and in this series of videos we are discussing trial papers of SPM 2022 for Biology subject. We are done with Kelantan and Sekolah Bersama Penuh. The third trial paper that we are discussing is Selangor trial paper, and we go straight to the first structure question. So let's see what's waiting for us. Okay, so immediately we can recognize this question is something to do with unicellular organism. So the question mentions that diagram 1.1 shows a type of protozoa that lives in a pond. In case you don't know, the name protozoa has meaning. The word pro means before, the word zoa means animal. The word pro means before, the word zoa means zoo means animal. So basically what happens is protozoa organisms are organisms that are considered before animal. They have animal characteristics, but you can't classify them as animals because they are unicellular organisms. Amoeba and Paramecium are examples of protozoa. You learn under biodiversity, so you are supposed to know what is protozoa. At the same time, anytime protozoa or unicellular organism comes out, unicellular organism is in chapter 2. They are under form 4 chapter 2 under cell organization. Right at the beginning of the biology syllabus, chapter 2, you learn components of the cell. Right after components of the cell, you learn unicellular organism. What you learn is Amoeba and Paramecium. For both Amoeba and Paramecium, you are supposed to know 7 living functions of the organism, like they do respiration, they do excretion, they do reproduction. 7 living processes for Amoeba and Paramecium you are supposed to know. Yes, in the syllabus we learn 7 living processes. But out of that 7, if you look at Amoeba or if you look at Paramecium, there are some process that stands out, meaning most of the time if this unicellular organism comes out, most probably that is the question they're going to ask. So based on looking back at all the past year question, if Amoeba comes out or if Paramecium comes out, this is what normally the question is. If it's Amoeba, the question will be about the process, how they obtain food, the feeding process of Amoeba, which is known as phagocytosis. If you already watched my previous 2 state papers discussion, in the Kelantan state paper I discussed about phagocytosis process of white blood cell. We discussed it under the second line of defense. So white blood cell like monocyte, neutrophil, they do phagocytosis. You can use the same concept to explain how Amoeba obtains food. The pseudopodium extends to surround the food particle. The food particle is trapped inside food vacuole through phagocytosis. Lysosome in the cell. We need to use lysosome to digest the food. So lysosome in the cell will fuse with the food vacuole. The enzymes in the lysosome, we call it lysozyme. Enzymes in the lysosome, lysozyme, hydrolyze the complex food into simple molecules. That is phagocytosis of Amoeba. If Amoeba comes out, chances are high phagocytosis process will be part of the answer. But this question is about Paramecium. So when we think about Paramecium, automatically what should come to our mind is contractile vacuole function. So in this first question here, they're asking us for the name cell component P. I am not surprised they're asking me about contractile vacuole. We are not surprised, because that's what happens every time. Every time Paramecium comes out, you immediately, your mind should go, okay, most probably there's going to be a contractile vacuole question. If Amoeba comes out, most probably there's going to be phagocytosis question. Amoeba also have contractile vacuole, they also have. But if they ask for Amoeba, right, it's going to be the same answer. What happens in Paramecium, the same process happens inside Amoeba in terms of contractile vacuole. Both of them have. So the process that the contractile vacuole control is known as osmoregulation. So the first question, name component P. When you see a star-shaped structure inside Paramecium, automatically it's contractile vacuole. So the star shape must be contractile vacuole. You can also see these structures here. You can also see the one I'm coloring green color now. All of these are supposed to be the food vacuole. So I'm just labeling for you, just in case you need to label it for exam. You should know the outer surface have cilia. These are supposed to be the nucleus, but all of these structures here are supposed to be food vacuole. To digest the food in the food vacuole, the paramecium, the amoeba needs to use lysosome, which I think I've already used in one of the trial papers before this. Okay, so this is contractile vacuole. So the next question is, explain the role of cell component P to ensure the survival of the protozoa in its habitat. So I'm not surprised this question comes up. We are ready for the answer. You must be ready also. If you get a paramecium, you get contractile vacuole, immediately you must get, how many marks they're giving us? They're giving us 2 marks. So that's bonus question for us. So the first point is P collects water that diffuses into the cell through osmosis. It is not mentioned in here. Normally what will happen is, the clue given is this paramecium and the amoeba, they live in fresh water. So the fresh water is supposed to be hypotonic. So the fresh water is supposed to be hypotonic. That means they are supposed to have high water potential. They have high water potential. So even though it's not mentioned here, you need to know this. So the habitat, the question mentioned is habitat. So the habitat of amoeba and paramecium is fresh water. Fresh water is hypotonic. Fresh water has higher water potential compared to the cell. So that means water will diffuse into the cell through a process known as osmosis. That is what I wrote here. P collects water that diffuses into the cell through osmosis. Water will diffuse it. So the P, which is contractile vacuole, will collect the water. As they collect the water, the size of contractile vacuole will increase. They reach the maximum size. Once they reach the maximum size, from the name contractile vacuole, they are going to contract. When they contract, they release the water out of the cell. So that's all. That's 3 marks, but here they're only going to give you 2 marks. So once P reaches maximum size, it contracts to release the water out of the cell, and the process is osmoregulation. Here they write for survival of the organism. In terms of the survival of the organism, what you need to know is prevent the cell lysis. It is not mentioned in the textbook, but I'm just informing you that if they don't do this, if they don't do the osmoregulation, if they don't collect the water and release it out of the cell will expand, the cell will burst, the cell will go through lysis. So this question, because it's already mentioned many times, the new syllabus, they can't afford to ask 3 marks, 4 marks, 6 marks question. So they have to make it a compact answer. So P collects water that diffuse into the cell through osmosis. Once it reaches maximum size, contract to release the water out of cell. It does osmoregulation, enough to get you 2 marks. But I'm also explaining to you in case this one comes out in essay question, maybe they give you 4 marks. You need to explain why does the water enter into the cell. Because they are living in fresh water. Fresh water is high water potential, higher water potential compared to the cell. Water diffusing. Now if they don't do osmoregulation, what happens? So right at the end you can add one more sentence. By doing osmoregulation, lysis of the cell can be prevented. The cell continue to survive. So these 2 is not needed for this answer, but because we are doing revision, in case it's a essay question worth 4 marks, you need that to answer also. So this is for protozoa, specifically paramecium. I repeat, if it's amoeba, phagocytosis. If it's paramecium, most probably is contractile vacuole. So how many marks we have so far? 3 marks. Next question. So the pond inhabited by the protozoa undergoes change in pH value due to spillage of a type of chemical. Fine. Clarify the importance of structure Q to overcome the situation. So the first thing is we need to find out what is structure Q. So looking at the diagram, structure Q is pointing to the hair-like structure on the surface of Paramecium. You should automatically know is cilia. So in terms of syllabus, we have this singular and plural. If it's cilium, that means it's singular. If it's cilia, that means it's plural. So one of the first thing we do is we identify what is it. So Q is cilia. What does a Q do? So the Q is used for the Paramecium to swim. And because now there is changes in pH, they are going to swim away from this is chemical substance. So generally the unicellular organism doesn't like chemical substances. When the pH changes, they are going to move away from the chemical substance. To move away, the movement of the Paramecium needs to use Q. Q is cilia. And normally we say the rhythmic beat of cilia. The rhythmic beat of cilia will bring this Paramecium away from the chemical substance. So that's all. So you identify what is Q, and then we write this word. Rhythmic beat of Q enables the protozoa to move away from the chemical substance. Again, for what? For survival of the organism. The earlier sentence you saw the word survival. So if you want, you can add this into, you saw the word survival, you can add it into this answer if you want. Rhythmic beat of Q enables the protozoa to move away from the chemical substance to ensure survival of organism of the protozoa. Done. So diagram 1.2, the next question. Diagram 1.2 shows a living process undergoes by the protozoa due to change in the pH value in the pot. So this one, take it as a clue. The word here is change in pH value in the pond. So this protozoa is doing this process when the pH value in the pond changes. If the pH value in the pond changes, that means this is actually unfavorable condition. Unfavorable condition. So under unfavorable condition, this Paramecium is doing this process. In favorable condition, let's say there is pH is normal, there is enough sunlight, the temperature is normal, there is enough food, that is favorable condition. Under favorable condition, what will this Paramecium do? What will the Amoeba do? If it's favorable condition, both of them are going to do, both Amoeba and Paramecium are going to do binary fission. Binary fission means basically one Paramecium is going to split to become two Paramecium, mitosis. Or one Amoeba split to become two Amoeba. That is done during favorable condition. So this is supposed to be unfavorable condition because the pH is changing. So when the pH is changing, is unfavorable condition, this is supposed to be sexual reproduction. Actually binary fission we can put in bracket, asexual reproduction. Now normally we think asexual is done during unfavorable, but in here favorable situation they do asexual reproduction, which is binary fission. Favorable condition. Unfavorable condition is the time they do sexual reproduction. But sexual reproduction is only done by Paramecium. Amoeba don't do sexual reproduction. So under unfavorable condition, this Paramecium is going to do sexual reproduction, and the sexual reproduction in Paramecium has a special name. The name is conjugation. For this answer, you can also write as sexual reproduction. Actually, the clue is already in the question. If you look in here, they are exchanging the nucleus. If the nucleus is being exchanged, that means it's sexual reproduction. If one Paramecium split to become two Paramecium, then it's asexual reproduction. Here clearly shown the nucleus is changing position. Another information that they already inform you is the change in pH. Unfavorable condition. So under unfavorable condition, Paramecium is going to do sexual reproduction. And the sexual reproduction has a special name, conjugation. So if it's Amoeba, under unfavorable condition, they will form something called as spores. If it's Paramecium, under unfavorable condition, they are going to do sexual reproduction, which is conjugation. Both Amoeba and Paramecium, under favorable condition, they are going to do binary fission. So reproduction, most to most is 1 mark, but just make sure you know what are the names you need in case Amoeba or Paramecium comes up. So I think that's all for this first question. Yeah, we are done with the first question. So the main points I repeat. Amoeba, if it comes out, most probably phagocytosis. Paramecium, if it comes out, most probably contractile vacuole. Besides that too, other general processes they do, like reproduction, how they get oxygen, maybe that is 1-2 marks. But the main question, Amoeba phagocytosis, Paramecium contractile vacuole. Make sure how Amoeba do phagocytosis, how contractile vacuole do osmoregulation. You know the answer. Make sure you know the answer in case it comes out. I'll see you in the second question.